Welcome to Level Up Chips, version 1.22474487139. Hey y'all, welcome back to Level Up Chips, the weekly gaming podcast from CM Life that talks about everything game related. That's right folks, when we say everything, we mean everything. Those Nintendo games you played as a kid are not safe from discussion. And this is going to be routine. Did you ever play any Nintendo games, Max?
First of all, I'm just returning from last week as a co-host. If it wasn't obvious, since he's called my name. But, I don't remember playing any Nintendo games. I remember playing, imitations, but nothing actually on brand, honestly.
Nothing on brand?
Nope.
Really? Oh man, I remember they had all sorts of different games with the different Nintendogs and stuff. I remember my sister, she was really into Dalmatians, and they had this brand new special edition. Maybe not brand new, but it was something you really had to look for.
Right.
And we ordered it maybe on Amazon, maybe we had to go out in the boonies in Michigan to find it. But I remember we got it, we thought Ella would be so excited for it, and then she just she played it a little bit.
She's like, it's okay.
And then she just left it. The most I ever did with Nintendo is I had it when it came out, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool, and I took it out for walks, and then, the kid I was, I just forgot about my dog.
So you think you're ever gonna revisit that, see what happened?
It was a rented copy. I can't do anything else for it. It's gone, man.
It could be I don't know, maybe you could find it by pure happenstance, but
that would be insane if someone actually kept the Nintendo on the rented. Because with Nintendogs, you basically had one file and you could delete it, or you could just get rid of the dogs and just let them go, put them back in the kennel and stuff, or in the dog pound or whatever. And that was that would be insane if someone actually said, let's just keep this dude's old dogs. But we're about to get into the first part of the Level Up Chips episode, and that is game news. Game news that has been around this past week and stuff that we might have forgotten about the previous week. The biggest thing that has come around this past week is that E3 is back this year. It is digital only, and it is coming around June 12th through the 15th. I'm really excited because it's going to have Nintendo, Capcom, Microsoft, Ubisoft, some of those big developers, just like any other E3. And just like any other E3, Sony is just not coming back. They have just dissed E3, just never went back to it. It's really sad, honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
What were some of your memories with E3?
Well, I mean, who couldn't remember things like Keanu Reeves in, what was it, 2018? It was 2018.
I thought it was 2019. Because 2019 was when the Cyberpunk stuff was really starting to get big.
Right. Yeah.
Wait. Yeah.
Was it?
Was it? Oh my gosh! Really quickly, I'm
just
gonna look it up.
Yep.
Keanu Reeves E3. Was it 2019?
Okay, Mike's correct.
And they had a huge spoiler in the trailer, and it was really sad because I didn't want that to be known.
Well, it didn't end up happening
it
like that, but that's beside the point.
Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, E3's one of those things where I would sit down, or I would go to McDonald's before the press conference for Nintendo. I'd get a huge Big Mac or something, or a double quarter. I'd sit down, I'd eat that sucker while I'm just getting hype for Nintendo news or Microsoft news. Any big thing was just it was the time to get hyped as a gamer.
Yeah.
Go on if you were going to say anything.
Another strange thing about it is that they're having more like third-party developers this time. For example, Mike mentioned Capcom, but they're also bringing in Konami, and
I think you might be right.
yeah, Konami's on the lineup. I think they like pretty much replaced Sony.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, but
it'd be insane if they brought in a new series or a returning series. I don't know, Metal Gear, Silent Hill, something that isn't a pachinko machine.
Metal Gear Survive 2.
No,
Oh, okay.
no. Okay, you ruined it.
Yeah, I did. That's what I do.
I'm messing with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess like going into a new little bit of gaming news. Unopened Super Mario Bros. Game for like the NES got sold for nearly $700,000. It was sold in Dallas, Texas, and there's really nothing much to it other than wow. Just how did it get to that much money? It was sold at an auction, but like I can't fathom
You
that.
just don't get it. Yeah.
I just can't fathom the fact that a game that just literally someone said, I think I'm just gonna keep it in a well contained environment.
I'm gonna preserve it well.
I'm just gonna preserve it. All of a sudden they just became like almost very close to being a millionaire.
Yeah, but I feel as though it's because most Super Mario Brothers cartridges are the ones that are bundled with Duck Hunt. This
was actually an original Mario game.
Yeah.
It was out at Duck Hunt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, most of the cartridges in circulation, people most of the ones that people own are the ones that came with the NES, which had both Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And it's rare to see just Super Mario Brothers on its own, so I can kind of understand it.
Yeah. No, that's some crazy stuff. I guess to me, I start looking at it like, wow, games are just becoming more and more expensive, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I always go back. What was it? We just went to a game store that sells some of the old stuff,
right.
And there was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a PlayStation 2 game, and it was like
1.
No, it was PlayStation 2.
Oh well, yeah. Continue.
Well, anyway, it was a good $95, and I mean, it was beautiful. It was just, I can't imagine a game like that. You know, it's so awesome, but you can't get it other than emulation or just buying that $95 game or getting on eBay for a cheaper price. But I can only imagine it'd be like $80.
It's going to teach you how to do an infinite on your wallet.
The Iron Man Infinite. It's going to be so great.
Yeah, but yeah, so continuing on with our gaming news segment. So Bandai Namco and Nintendo revealed that PacMan 99, which is a similar type of game to Tetris 99, effectively a Tetris Battle Royale, it just released on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, did it release?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's the 7th. So, effectively, you just try to outlast other players while you play Pac-Man, and
it's a really neat thing because you weren't a ghost to other Pac-Mans and you're just trying to eat them. It's more like you're playing your own game of Pac-Man, and people, they might eat the ghosts after getting a huge pellet or something, but I'm gonna take a guess and say like they'll eat the ghost and then that ghost will go into another person's game, and they'll just start adding up until at some point someone can't handle like a good 20-30 ghosts just tailing you, and then they get out.
Right.
That's kind of what Tetris 99 did after you started getting like good combos, some good Tetris I don't even know what to call those Tetris moves where you get 5 blocks.
Yeah, that's a Tetris.
Tetris, yeah. You pretty much like can give other people gray blocks that they have to try to fill up, and it just starts adding up. Players just start adding to your own game until you just can't play anymore. And I think it's a really neat way. I guess I'm not a big fan of some of the like straight up Apex Legends or Fortnite stuff, where you just directly attack people.
Yeah, where it's a more
it's more passive.
Yeah, it's a more passive form of a battle royale, which is unique, especially considering that back when Tetris 99 released, that was battle royale's heyday. So
Oh yeah.
It was just all over the place.
That
I felt unique. So.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for this. This is like, I think I didn't know it was releasing today. I thought it was maybe like next Wednesday. So I'm about to go get that really quickly, but I don't know if it's free actually.
Oh yeah,
is
it's
it free?
Free? Yeah.
Bless. Okay. I'll probably be playing that after this. But is there anything else that came to mind about like crazy new gaming news?
No, not really, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, it's been kind of a slow week.
Yeah.
For gaming news. Usually every week there is something going on, but this week nothing too crazy. It's actually really awesome that we're able to end with PacMan 99 because we're about to get into the brand new topic of arcades. This is the main topic of this episode, and I am extremely excited about it because we'll be talking a little bit more about like the history and some of our own experiences with arcades and arcade machines, you know. So going into like the history of it, it gets kind of weird because it started in 71. Usually I start thinking of like the 80s when it comes to arcade machines. But back in 1971, there was a game called Computer Space.
Right.
And, you know, that was the first ever arcade game. It was a ripoff of this one game called Space War, where pretty much there's like this little gravitational well, and it just kind of makes them rotate. You know, 2 spaceships rotate, and they have to keep hitting each other to win. And they can like try to maneuver away from the bullets. It's, you know, a little bit finicky.
Right.
But this game made it single player, and you had to take out like alien ships, and you know, made it a little bit easier to maneuver, no gravity well, and it was the first one to be like coin operated.
Right.
And basically, you know, it was somewhat of a hit, and the people who made this were also the people who founded the arcade company Atari. More competitors started to come in with their stuff, you know, with Pong being successful. Atari made that one too. Competitors started to make bootlegs of that. Sega surprisingly made a Pong clone. That was their first ever arcade machine. And originally Sega started as this company called Service Games. You can see if you mix them together, you get Sega. But they made slot machines before arcade stuff. You know, kind of like how Nintendo used to make toys before they started getting into arcade machines.
Right.
Midway started making like some of the stuff you don't really hear about, Gunfight, Boot Hill in the 70s, and Pong, you know, Atari made like the Indy 800 game. Pong, again, really wasn't crazy. Atari was starting to get into the home market, but then around 78 to 1986, that's when things started to go into the golden age of gaming. It was really, really awesome because this is where you get a lot of those classics. Something like PacMan, which was made by Namco, Space Invader, made by Taito, Donkey Kong, Asteroid, Space Harrier. Those games were really like what made that age just so amazing to be at the arcade.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I wish we were old enough to say that we were, you know, back in the heyday of that, but honestly, from like some of those games that came out in like the 80s that are like kind of big, what were like some of your favorites?
Well, I'll be honest. One of my favorites to actually play is Donkey Kong. I mean, it's a classic. Used to not be able to get past the first 25 meters. That was brutal.
That was always brutal, man.
Didn't know how to jump for some reason. Let's see. I like Gradius. It's a...
The Konami game.
Yeah, it's a side... Made by Konami, as Mike just mentioned. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. Is it the first of its kind?
Honestly, people say that, like, Space Invaders was the original, like, shoot 'em up.
Yeah,
but I guess you would say Gradius was the first one where it was kind of side scrolling and you had to like maneuver away from bullets while it was scrolling. You know,
right.
You could control the ship in a 360, environment
instead of just on a line.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So those are some of my favorites. But how about you?
Oh my gosh, I really love Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man were some of those ones that I love. Donkey Kong, I always wanted to get good at that. And I would be like, oh, you can jump. And as, like, the first barrel that came along, every single time, I just barely miss where I could avoid the barrel. And I'd hit it and immediately die. I'd be like, okay, next time. And it just keep happening over and over and over again. And I'd be like, oh, this game sucks. But I think the one that I absolutely love, and this is something that was new. I didn't really play this, in other arcades, bowling alley, something like that. But it was from the Yakuza games. Mm-hmm. It's a Sega-owned franchise, and they really like to have little mini games, and some of the games are set in like the 80s, and this one specifically had Space Harrier in the arcades, and I loved it because I had never played it before, but it's kind of that shoot 'em up style, but like in a over the shoulder, like third person view.
Right. And
you kind of had this really weird, like abstract look to everything. It was just so surreal in a sense.
If you all have played Star Fox, it's kind of like that. But
yeah, it's like Star Fox, but just a little bit more trippy, I'd say.
Yeah, just way more trippy.
Way more trippy. But it's something where I was like, man, they made that in the 80s? That's so cool.
Right, yeah.
That era is just, it is the golden age, but personally, it's not my favorite golden age. The 90s was, I mean, I didn't know this, but the 90s was just a huge golden age for fighting games. And, it took me to look at the timeline on Wikipedia to see, okay, which games came out in the 90s. And it turns out almost every, like, main fighting game came out in the 90s. It was insane. Like, in 1990, SNK made this game called Nam 1975. I didn't really see what it was about, but it started to make the Neo Geo hardware, which was used for like Fatal Fury, Samurai Showdown, some of those really, really cool, crazy games.
Right. It was always SNK always made a point to be technically impressive, like pretty much before balancing their games for better or for worse. Like for example, I think they were the first. One of their games was the first one to have a audio track of a person actually putting their voice into, like, it's a, I forgot what the name of the game was called, but it's Psycho Soldier is the first like vocal song to ever be put in a video game.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's the cool fact I like to remember.
That's actually really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those Neo Geo hardware sets were really cool, especially because you could get like the Neo Geo home console. The biggest problem with the Neo Geo console and why it was always kind of rare and hard to find is the fact that
The games were insanely expensive.
it was easy to get a console. It was more like the games were mini arcade machines.
Right.
Essentially, you would just buy a full set
Of
that
arcade games.
that pretty much an arcade would buy.
Right.
And that would be like, a game would be like hundreds of dollars.
Yep.
I feel so bad for the kids that were like, I got a Neo Geo, Mom, can I get this game? And they'd be like, no, do it on your own time. Something like that. Or like, you can go get it from like mowing lawns or something. It's like, yeah, how many lawns is it gonna be?
You're gonna have to mow lawns for eternity.
Yeah, that's gonna be a neighborhood full of lawns I mow. I feel so bad for them. But the 90s, it brought along Street Fighter 2, which is personally like one of my favorite fighting series, because that was really the thing that made the fighting craze.
Right.
It had all those different people from around the world. It was one of those games where it was easy to control. It was 6 buttons, excuse me. Low, medium, high, kick and punch. And you had combos, stuff like that. The Hadouken was always something people loved. And you could fight against each other with just joysticks and, little buttons. It was really easy to do, really cheap, and really addictive.
Right. Yeah. It's for some reason it's a little known fact that the Street Fighter series didn't actually start with Street Fighter 2. There's that seems strangely obvious, but like there's Street Fighter 1 before it, which is not a good game.
There's a huge problem with it. Essentially, Street Fighter 1, it was 2-player as well, but the biggest thing is you had a joystick, but you also had a big pad where pretty much you could hit it, but you couldn't just like tap it or anything. You literally had to punch it, and that would be a really neat thing. The problem is, imagine like 100 people playing it in one day.
Yep.
Immediately, that pad is just gonna get so beat up that it's gonna stop working very quickly, and it's gonna need maintenance all the time.
Yep.
It was just not a good idea for arcades at the time.
Yeah. Fighting games are in a prototype stage. I think Street Fighter 1 was released in 1989. But the point is, Street Fighter 2 pretty much completely codified what a fighting game should look like.
Exactly.
At the fundamental level.
It had everything. The fantastic music, colors, characters, fighting moves, combos, stuff like that. Not as much combo in the first one.
Yeah, another thing about that. Combos were an accident, effectively, in the code. So people figured out you could put inputs into the game before an animation was done, before an animation was finished, and the next move would come out immediately after. So that was an accident, but it's an integral part of fighting games today.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of history for Street Fighter. That feels like a whole episode we could do.
Right.
That game is just
crazy,
insane, the history behind it. But after 91 came Mortal Kombat, which is just insane. Again, that in 1990 we had SNK, 91 Street Fighter, and 92 Mortal Kombat, because those are the games that are just absolutely huge.
Right.
I know, it's some fantastic stuff, gory fun. Definitely got a lot of parents worried what kids were doing. But 93 we saw Virtua Fighter, which was the first 3D fighting game.
That was made by Sega.
Yep. And 94 was Killer Instinct. Was that one made by Rare at the moment?
Yeah, Rare.
Rare? Okay. Yeah. 94 had a Killer Instinct, and Tekken, which a lot of people, those cabinets came in like a storm, the Tekken ones. with things like the PlayStation console being able to have it and everything,
Right.
it just became a huge part of the fighting world.
Right.
And, we got some other stuff like X-Men versus Street Fighter, but the 90s was just absolutely huge when it came to just the different games that came around.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that X-Men versus Street Fighter eventually ended up developing into a series, Marvel versus Capcom.
I should have mentioned that.
Yeah. It just, like, they were like, oh, well, we got all these Marvel characters and we got all these Capcom characters. Why don't we just put them all into a game and have them fight each other?
Which is just absolutely awesome. That's one of my favorite things, because you just get to see, like, a Resident Evil character like Chris Redfield just beating the crap out of Spider-Man or something, and you're like, how did this happen? How did this come to fruition? Because it doesn't make sense. That's the biggest thing I think about. I'm just like, oh yeah, Wolverine versus Blanca. Or,
Yeah. Sometimes crossovers just happen in strange ways.
very strange ways. But it's definitely one of those games that's beloved, the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Yeah.
But honestly, what were your favorite fighting games?
Well, I like the Street Fighter series a lot. I've pretty much got every entry in some way on some console.
I used to.
Yeah. I even bought Street Fighter 4 on the 3DS.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. It was interesting, but yeah, Street Fighter is a favorite of mine. I got into the Mortal Kombat series a bit late, but I can appreciate its roots, even if its roots are sometimes
Not that
broken.
Yeah. The Mortal Kombat series was definitely more fun when you had other people playing. When it came to the computers, they were usually a little too difficult.
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat 2, it literally invented the term input reading because the AI would know what you were about to do insanely fast with inhuman reaction.
And pretty much just take you out there.
Exactly.
It would be cheating in a certain way. And
to get more money out of you.
And that's where a lot of these arcade games, it's really interesting because you can't put updates in these.
Right.
Once a game comes out, immediately they can't do anything about it. Or if you're like Street Fighter 2, you could just put out like 10 different installments of the same game. But I digress. I love arcades in general.
Right.
I didn't really have an arcade that I used to go to until recently. I think it was around my sophomore year of high school. I actually looked up on Google, where are the nearest arcades around, near me, and I noticed that there was one in Ann Arbor, maybe 30 minutes away, and I was like, oh, this looks kind of neat. It's called Pinball Pete's. And I remember going down, because it's in a basement, and I remember seeing, as I was going down, I saw, like, old Atari games, the Joust game, the Gauntlet game, the Space Invader. And as I kept going down, I saw Punch-Out, I saw Mario Bros, Tetris, Ghost Squad. Some of those games that were just, oh my gosh, it was a beautiful place. And I still love to go there if they're ever open. This was pre-COVID, but it was hot because of all the machines. When you have a basement and really no way for heat to escape, it just gets hot. It gets noisy from all the different games playing, and there is just all sorts of colors everywhere. There's all sorts of noises, colors. whirring of the machines. It's beautiful. It's a wonderland of tech that I just, every single time I think about it, I just have a smile on my face and I start thinking about like some of those crazy memories I have from the arcades.
Right, yeah.
Did you ever have any like arcades or machines that you used to play a lot?
Not particularly any machines because my family wasn't really into that stuff. So mostly when I got to go to an arcade, it was stuff at like, laser tag places where it's more of a, it's less classical arcade machines and more, stuff meant to take your money.
There's one game in particular that comes to mind, and I bet that everybody's thinking about it now. It's the shooter Terminator Salvation.
Oh,
does that come to mind?
Yeah. I see that like every movie theater. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
But it's fun.
It's fun. I will say that's one of the games that I know for sure kind of cheats in a sense where they don't give a reasonable time to ever react to certain hits.
Right.
Like there are certain points where I'm like, I know they wanted me to take a hit and they were gonna make me take a hit.
Right. But I remember playing, I think it was up in Mackinac City or something. Really specific memory. We were at a pizza parlor, and up in the upstairs there was a little arcade. There was Crazy Taxi. I played that a bit.
Oh,
that's another one. That's another classic game. Crazy Taxi, where you just have to get people around and be as destructive as possible while doing so. And it's just a really fun time. So
that just brought me back to my childhood. Whoa. I forgot about that game. Okay, I need a second.
Alright, I guess I'll continue.
Go on.
Yeah, Mike is having a nostalgic trip at the moment. So, particularly, those are my favorite memories when it comes to, like, arcades and stuff. So,
I think I'm back.
Yeah. I think
I'm back.
Yeah. So, how about you share, like, some more of yours, I suppose?
So, some of my favorite memories. Oh my gosh. So, I guess I gotta tell you, since I had that huge nostalgia trip, pretty much, I used to go to this place called Zap Zone. And
I went there.
Over in Ann Arbor?
Yep.
Yeah. You remember the old one where it was like, it had the tiled flooring and stuff, where it was like, kind of that like white, green, orange, like, just linoleum type. Right. It was like in a really small area, a weird area of Ann Arbor. And I remember there was like a Gauntlet Dark Legacy around there. There was the Crazy Taxi, Dance Dance Revolution. I think maybe the Terminator game came around at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe. But
Probably.
I remember DDR was one of those games that I was not planning to talk about, but I loved. There's this one song where it was like Bee Bee Bumblebee, and it was like good.
Right.
But some of my favorite memories from Pinball Pete's probably came from playing like Street Fighter 2 with anybody that I went to Pinball Pete's with, which was like you, some of my other friends like Leah, some high school buds.
Right.
I used to play Ghost Squad because that was like one of those first person shooters that didn't take your money. It was like those Terminator games, but it was all about skill, honestly. If you actually had the skill, you could actually take it. And I remember, I think I only used like maybe $1 worth of money, and I was able to finish the whole game. And I was really happy with that one. Tekken 3, I played that one at an ice hockey rink. And then I used to play TMNT 4 Turtles in Time with a bunch of people. And I love that one because that one is like 4-player. It's a beat 'em up, like kind of the Streets of Rage type or Final Fight. It's really, really fun. And you got to like throw the foot ninjas from TMNT into the screen and they like just zoom out. Yeah, zoom in and be like, whoa!
Yes.
That was some great stuff. Time Crisis is also another memory that was like really fun because you had like the little pedal. It was, again, one of those light gun games, but you had a pedal to get yourself in cover and get yourself out of cover.
Right, yeah. So...
Pretty much, those are my memories.
Right.
But if you really had like an arcade machine that you really wanted, like back at your home, which arcade cabinet would you want?
That's hard to say. It could... Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, I'm honestly not too sure.
Just take a second to mull it over.
Yeah.
But pretty much for me, I've had a dream of having like a bar arcade in a basement, like one of those man cave type of things, but anybody's invited. It's not a man cave. And you could just, maybe I would make an arcade machine, or I would get one of those like 1-up arcade machines where it's Street Fighter like 2 and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Something like that, or maybe get a Turtles in Time cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I always wanted to get past a certain point, but they wouldn't let you continue without a coin. And I wanted to see the full way through. I wanted to get to Shredder and just beat the crap out of him.
Yeah. I feel like I'd probably put in like Donkey Kong or just some of the classics, the oldies, like PacMan.
Big time.
Yeah, just to have for convenience.
I take it back. I would say that I want the arcade version of Gauntlet Dark Legacy, but I didn't like the arcade version. I liked the home version because you could actually like create characters and it was like kind of an RPG.
Right.
And, it was still one of those, like, beat-em-up styles, but you could keep items, you could do all that stuff. It was really cool like that. So, honestly, the more I think about it, I would want probably, like, an all-in-one arcade machine where you could just put your own fight stick just right there and just make it personal. Mm-hmm. But it'd still be, like, a fun time for everyone.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But that's all I really have about arcades. I wish they were still around.
Yeah, but home console gaming is definitely more convenient and less expensive to maintain.
Home console gaming has killed the arcades. Boo. Yeah, that sounded lame.
Yeah, okay. We're going to move on to our recommendation for games.
Yeah. So pretty much, like we say every week, this is totally random, and this week's winner is going to be God of War, the 2018 version. Oh man, this game rocks.
Oh yeah, it does.
Oh my gosh, it's essentially like... One thing I absolutely love about this game is the fact that it's one take.
Yeah, it's never cut. It's...
If you really, like, never die or if you don't go into a menu or something, you literally could just go the entire game with just one take. What? Okay.
Yeah, but...
okay.
Yeah, alright. So, yeah, that's a really cool aspect of the game.
Why don't you say it then, so I don't say anything bad?
Yeah, so, effectively it tells the tale of Kratos and his son Atreus. This is the same Kratos from the original series that screams a lot and murders a lot of people.
Yes.
So Kratos is trying to get away from his past and keep his son from knowing what he did back then. And in the beginning, his wife and Atreus' mother dies, and they have to bring her ashes to what she describes as the highest point in all the realms.
Oh.
And they say, "Oh, well, this mountain is the highest point that we can see, so let's take her there." And that's how the game
That's why
starts.
I was about to... Okay, yeah, my bad. Yeah.
So
I almost spoiled some stuff, and I didn't realize it because I thought it was just...
common knowledge.
It was common knowledge. It was like at the beginning of the game, but I haven't played the game long in a while to remember. So I would just shut up. But pretty much this game it's just an epic adventure. It's one of those games where it gets the mythology so off, it's just very accurate in a sense, but it still has its good twist for Norse mythology. Mm-hmm. It's a father and son story, it's one of those like stories where Kratos is really cold to Atreus, but they kind of start to like warm up to each other. Yeah, they both start to learn about each other and be like, okay, I respect you. And then Atreus is like, I respect you too, father.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that this is the game where all those boy memes came from back in 2018, where Kratos would just call Atreus boy. Like,
it would be awesome.
All the time.
I loved it. It was so great.
I remember I like started a run of that game, and I was about to record every single time he said boy. Just...
You would have had like...
I think I got to like 30, and then I stopped because it was...
30?
Yeah.
Dang.
That was like the beginning of the game. That was like the opening segment.
And you were like, that's it. I can't do it anymore. Yeah, if you just kept going about it, you probably would have had like a good like 20 gigabytes worth of just...
I was writing it on paper.
Oh, I thought you were recording it in the sense of just recording it video.
No,
I was like, dude, do you have any idea how much space that would take?
No, that's crazy. But
thank God.
Yeah. No.
But pretty much the combat is some great stuff. It's more of the character action stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of similar to like I want to... It's really weird to say because it's kind of its own thing. It has those combos. It has the, beat 'em up style of like, just a fighting action game.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot of fun, but it's not like Devil May Cry or like Bayonetta and the, character action style genre. Mm-hmm. It's not the certain angle. It's not fast combat that's kind of stupid fun. Mm-hmm. This one's a lot more personal. It's a lot more kind of slow and methodical, deliberate, yeah. And it just feels really personal because you're right there on the shoulder of Kratos, and you get so close to the action. You see him ripping apart certain enemies, and it's so cool looking. Mm-hmm. I love it because of that, and I do not want to give any spoilers, and that's why I told Max to do the other part, but this game story is just hands down incredible. Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing. The acting, the voice acting, it's out of this world. Uh-huh. It is some of the best stuff that any game has ever had, in my opinion.
Yeah, it can seem like the game's kind of depressing sometimes, but like also it has some moments of levity.
It has those highs
actual
and lows.
Comedy.
It has highs and lows for like the tone of the game,
mm-hmm.
and that's what makes it really awesome. It's like one of those. It's an Oscar type of game, It
right.
feels like it's like how when a movie comes out, it's like, oh, that's just Oscar bait, and it's trying to get the game.
Trying to get the game award.
It's trying to get the game award. This
Which it did.
Parasite, yeah. No, this one was like, it felt personal. It felt real, and it felt like you could really get immersed in the environment, the story, the music, the characters, the dialogue.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful journey.
It's an easy 10 out of 10 experience.
Yeah, also, quick warning, if you play it and you run into the lake, be sure to turn your speakers down, because there's something that is very loud there, and I don't want you to hurt your ears, so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to end this. And, that's honestly, this has been a really awesome episode. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed talking about this stuff.
Right.
But, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on our talk about the history and love of the arcades. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to follow Level Up Chips and CM Life on your preferred platform. We also recommend our partner podcast, Raven Geeks. Do as you want. But join us next week as we talk about the 7th generation of consoles, aka the Wii, the PS3, and the Xbox 360 era. Until then, see ya, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.